loneliness is actually stemmed not from who you're surrounding yourself with, but one, your actual own sense of self. Like, how do you perceive yourself? How do you feel? Two, are you even doing anything for yourself? Like working every day, day in and day out. Of course, you're going to feel lonely because there's way more to life than colleagues.
Welcome to the Thriving Workplace Podcast,
the show that empowers your workplace to make a positive impact on your people, teams, and the entire organizational community.
Whether you're an employee, manager, or executive, we've got something for you.
Dive into inspiring ideas, practical tips, and meaningful conversations about employee well-being.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Jason, passionate workplace well-being champions from the Workplace Performance and Wellbeing Institute.
Join us as we bring in renowned experts and thoughtful leaders to share their wisdom, experiences, and innovative approaches to building a thriving workplace. Welcome back to another episode of the Thriving Workplace Podcast. This week, we're joined by not one, but two very special guests. This week, we're joined by Tony Punzo, who helps men step into their potential by unlocking their purpose. And we're also joined by Maggie Tilley. She runs her academy, which is for women to step into their power and claim the life they want. But together, they are the founders of the Better Together movement, and they are on a mission to impact and inspire the lives of over 20,000 people, and in the process, grow the happiest and healthiest community on the planet. So please welcome to the Thriving Workplace Podcast, Tony Punzo and Maggie Tilley. Hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, Jen. How are we?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and for being on this podcast. I'm so excited to get into this with these guys. But I'd love to start the podcast by getting to know a little bit about you two and give some context to the listeners. So let's start with you, Tony. Maybe just tell them a little bit about your story, where you started and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a loaded story, but I'll give you all the juicy parts. Really, for me, it started about 3-4 years ago, and I started off as a tradie. And in that tradie culture, it can get quite toxic, and I was working in Sydney in tunnels at the time, and there was times where I'd see little to no sunlight. So no sunlight whatsoever. I'd see very, very little social life. I barely even see my friends. There was no reception down in the tunnels. So it was just strictly work, eat, come home, sleep, repeat. And for about 3 years, that was my life. And what I found over the period of working in tunnels and being in that environment, people just, the habits that people have down there, and probably tradies in general, quite a lot of tradies, there's a high percentage of them, it's just drinking, drugs, like all the addictions that you can really get your hands on. And that's when I really knew, after my life really did take a bit of a toll with my health, with my mental health, and really a lot of things around suicide ideation, that things needed to change. And if things didn't change, then something was going to happen as a consequence. And so I really started looking into how I could begin improving my mindset and working on things like my health, so that I could become a better man to, potentially attract the partner of my dreams sitting here on the left of me, and, become a better person devoted to something greater than himself. And so that's where I really stumbled across different things in my life, through health, it led me down the mindset route, and through mindset led me down, creating a beautiful and right environment around me that were supportive, not toxic, not, wanting to live for the weekend. And so there was much more to live for on the other side of working on myself as a person, that really sort of led me down this path of, better together.
Oh, amazing. I love your story. And what about you, Maggie? Let's give some context to the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. My story with loneliness, I guess, if we talk into Better Together, it started when I was around 18, 19, getting ready to leave school, when I realized that what I wanted to do for my life and with my life was so different to everyone that I was surrounded by. They were so excited, and which is amazing to, find their partner and get a house and have some kids and really settle down for their life. And for me, I was like, that sounds boring. I'm not doing that, at least not right now. And for me, I really wanted to go travel, and I had not done that up until the time because I wanted to go with people. So I got to the end of school and I was like, you know what, I'm not waiting around for a partner or a best friend or someone to give me permission to live my life. I'm going to do it. The consequence, I guess, and what Tony was saying earlier is like choices have consequences, was that I did it alone and it was a very lonely time in my life, even though I was living what looked like on the outside an incredible life. I was traveling the world, I was meeting people, but I wasn't finding people that I really gelled with, people that, you know, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, that I wanted to have around all the time, that I could have those conversations with when, you know, times sucked or when times got really good. Neither end of the spectrum, I had those people around me. So when I came home from traveling and I decided to, you know, move away from family again, I was like, this whole spiral of loneliness started to come in. I was doing everything. I was going after my dreams, my business, leaving my job. I was, you know, doing all these exciting things, but doing it without anyone. And then, you know, time went on, years went on, and I met Tony, and from there, everything has started to be better when we're together. Think we've been able to really recognize what's actually important to us when it comes to business, career, relationships, friendships, finances, all of the things. It really has been able to duplicate since meeting each other and since being able to step more into that, not on such a lonely path. So that's why for us, like loneliness is so important. Yes, I have my own endeavors around how I want to help women. Tony has his own endeavors with how he wants to help men. And together that works really great. We get to do what we love together. We get to travel together. We get to build communities together. We get to build business together. And it all gets to amplify everything. And it's not such a lonely route that it used to be. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my story and what we're now moving into with Better Together.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, guys. And I always find it so much power behind a story. And it's like you're not just Tony Punzo, you're not just Maggie Tilley. You've got this story that's so beautiful that you want to then go out and share with the world. Hence the movement, the Better Together movement. Could you talk a little bit about that? Why did you start the Better Together movement?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I love it, right? Like, there's a story behind everything. And, you know, we really started to, I suppose it came a time or a point in time in our lives and in our business where it became bit stale. It can get a bit stale and stagnant energy sometimes where you feel like the business isn't moving forward. High achievers feel like that all the time. Like they feel like they're doing all the KPIs, they're doing all the right things, but they're not really feeling like they're moving forward. And that from a vibrational standpoint doesn't help you move forward, right? But what we discovered was that when we can really get into our creative side, get around really amazing people and connect and have fun in the process, you know, we can really have a good time and make a whole lot more money. And that's what we've found, right? That, you know, loneliness, from what Maggie was saying in her story, you know, we think that we have to put ourselves in this box and do all the goals and run for it ourselves, when in reality, it's so much better when it's done together. It's so much more sustainable as well. And you're not feeling like you're dragging 100 people behind you trying to, you know, win the championship. Like you're running the same race here. That's what we have to remember. We're not competing against anyone. We just want to win the same race together.
Yeah.
That's a little bit about why. And it's just, you know, it's so important to us because it's not just us saying it. It's the World Health Organization. They're saying it. They're saying it's the biggest epidemic in the world right now. And one of the biggest killers. Let that sit.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that touches everyone. Like for us, we're super inspired to help business owners and entrepreneurs. But like if we reflect on our own life, it happened when we're in jobs. It happened when we're at school. Like loneliness touches everyone at some point in their life. And it doesn't have to, if we can actually understand what real connection is like, how to connect. Like I really think we're moving in a positive direction. Parents are really teaching their kids how to connect. They're really supporting the growth of kids, and this next generation are going to be well better off than what we were, what our parents were, etc. I really think loneliness touches so many people's lives that we'd be silly not to be speaking up and sharing a message when we know better than a lot of people now, and we can give that to other people to really support them. Like, why would we hold on to that when we can give back?
Yeah. And like you touched on a really good point there. And when it comes to like the younger generation really stepping up, loneliness isn't about the amount of people that you spend your time with. It's actually the inability to articulate your dreams. Right. So if you can have the right environment around you to help you do that, that's when you really unlock your potential. That's when you really unlock your purpose.
That actually segues nicely to my next question because, loneliness, we're talking about it on this podcast, is something that we hear all the time when we're dealing with workplaces and clients. People are feeling lonely and it's creating, a huge amount of stress in their life and a huge strain on their mental health. What do you think contributes to this sense of loneliness, and what is loneliness? Because you guys said that you experienced it, but you were still around people. And like you said, it's not really necessarily directly correlated with being in the presence of someone. So what is loneliness and what contributes to it?
Yeah, I don't think loneliness and being alone actually are the same thing. They're completely different. I've experienced this, I'm sure Tony has, I'm sure you have, where you've been in a crowd of people and you felt so alone, or vice versa. You've gone and sat down at the beach and you can just feel a sense of presence around you beyond what you actually have. And sometimes we get so fixated on a picture of a lonely person and it's like someone in their bedroom crying. Like that must be the picture of loneliness. But you never know, like your boss could be walking around the office feeling lonely and he's trying to run like a business and like he looks like he's got his head on straight and he's like this thriving guy, successful business, running a team of X amount of people, but really he goes home and he's like, well, what's the point? I have no sense of self. I have no real friends. I'm working all the time. I have no time for myself. And I think loneliness is actually stemmed not from who you're surrounding yourself with, but one, your actual own sense of self. Like, how do you perceive yourself? How do you feel? Two, are you even doing anything for yourself? Like working every day, day in and day out. Of course you're going to feel lonely because there's way more to life than colleagues, way more to life. Like they're just people that happen to have got the same job as you, and some turn into incredible friends, but most of them are there to do a job. They're not there to be your friend, unfortunately. So if you don't have people outside of a job, like of course you're going to go home and feel lonely, or be at work and feel lonely. Same with school. Like we don't usually pick our friends at school. We get put in a classroom of 20, 30 people and we have to just choose our favorite. Oh, I like you. Okay, we can be friends. Like that's how we choose friends when we're young. And until we go and play sport and we're doing something we love, right? And then we start finding like Bill and Sally who play soccer with us. And like they're amazing because we both love playing soccer and it means we can go do it on Sundays together and we can have oranges at halftime and like life feels amazing because life is amazing because we're doing things we love and we're passionate about it. And then sometimes people grow up and then they just have a job and they forget how to fuel their own cup. They forget how to do things that light them up. They forget that life isn't supposed to just be worked. It's actually supposed to be lived. And the things that we once found enjoyable that we once then forgot can be the secret to regaining that sense of self and regaining that zest for life and lessening the loneliness. But how do people get there when they're so stuck in this place of loneliness? And I guess that's where our message comes in, where we get to support people and bring people together and show them that, a Sunday walk or going stand-up paddleboarding with some friends or coming to a yoga session or, I don't know, ringing a friend that you haven't heard from in ages, like the little things in life will really start moving you forward. So I don't know if that actually answers your question, but I don't think loneliness is what people perceive it to be. I think there's so much more to it that is simple to fix, but it doesn't feel easy to fix because a lot of people have been feeling lonely for so long that the change is so drastic.
I love that. And it just got me thinking of, we were talking about schools then and we get thrown into a classroom of 20 to 30 people. And I actually never thought about that we choose our friends at school because of that random selection of 20 to 30 people. And it sort of reflects on my journey was, I was lonely during school time. And, just having this conversation has actually made awareness that I was lonely because I didn't fit with the people around me, because I was thrown in with 20 to 30 children of my age and I had to make friends with them in inverted commas. And it wasn't, like you said before, Maggie, it was I made more friends outside of school because I connected with them because of the things that I enjoyed doing, rather than just that random selection of 20 to 30 students in the classroom. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I love that. Tony, I wanted to dive into what you do now. You're a sales guru as well, but then you're also helping men step into their potential and unlocking their purpose. So could you explain a little bit about what that actually looks like and how would someone step into their purpose, men or women?
Great question, Jay.
Absolutely. This is exciting. Yeah, absolutely. And, it really does stem, I think we try and focus on all like the things like the outcome of what purpose means, like the relationship, the cars, the house, the outcome, the impact you want to have. And this is where a lot of people sit. We sit in the relationship, we sit in the outcome, we just think about it, we drown in it. But very little do we focus on the things and the person we have to become to get there, right? And so when we can start honing in as men and focusing on those small disciplines every day that are going to lead us to the thing that we want to devote our lives to, if inevitably it's going to happen. Inevitably, people are going to be able to step into their purpose because they're just becoming, right? You can have as soon as you become, and that's all in the doing. And sometimes it's just as simple as like setting alarms to remind yourself to do that thing you said you were going to do and just be integral and stick to your word. Right? It's fascinating. It really is fascinating to see. And, like I see it in outside sales organization all the time. Sometimes it's just about pulling each other up, staying accountable. As men, sometimes we need accountability. We need accountability. Not sometimes. We need it, right? Because we can all fall off in the tracks and go sideways and not stick to our purpose. But that's why sometimes it's good to have a good woman around, right? And that's why it's good to have good men around you as well. And that's what we do in our organization. We really keep each other accountable, to our purpose, to our mission, who we want to become. And that's really how we do it. It's about sticking to your disciplines and really sticking to your word. But it comes through so many different avenues, through health, through mindset, and just different perspective shifts that if you can start learning today, it would just change your life.
And if someone was, listening to this podcast right now and they're saying like, this sounds was great, Tony, but I'm feeling lost right now and I don't know what my purpose is. So I don't know where to start. How do they start to feel into and discover what their life purpose is, why they're put on this earth? And I know Maggie will definitely have something to say to this as well.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And, I take it back to my journey and how I started because at the end of the day, the transformation that I've been able to have has all stemmed off the back of health. If you don't have health, you don't have wealth, right? And you cannot begin to build wealth unless you move past, becoming the best version of yourself. You have to become the best version of yourself first before sometimes you can even think about, raising your income, building a business. And because it makes it so much harder. Not because you can't, but because it makes it so much harder to have the capacity to make great decisions in your life. So if there's anyone out there actually thinking about, what my purpose gets to look like, maybe don't start at the outcome. Start by actually being a good human. Start by putting good things into your body, right? Focus on your health and then start consuming, all of the right content, personal development, from Jim Rohn to Tony Robbins, like start fueling your mind, not just your body with, good food and products. Start fueling your mind so that you can do those reps in your mind the same way you do in the gym. Right? So it really is about like becoming the best version of yourself and just complete mind body overhaul.
It can be that simple.
Yeah.
And I feel like the word purpose, I'm going to say for me at times, feels scary. It feels so big. It's like you said, you project out into the future and you have all these big dreams and it's exciting. But then you're like, okay, but how do I get there? I love what you said, Tony. It's just simple steps, work on your health, work on your mindset, fuel yourself with the right things, and you'll start to feel the changes in your body and in your mind that will naturally fall into your purpose.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm.
Did you want to comment?
Just trying things. Like you will pivot and shift into so many different things. Like what you say your purpose is now might not be what it is in like 5 years time. So just consider that.
Yeah, that's true. We're constantly changing, evolving.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything next? You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, my first, well, when I first launched my podcast, it was called Powerfully on Purpose, right? Like, when I first got into the personal development space, into business, I was like, I'm gonna search for my purpose. I'm gonna do everything I can to create it. Like, this is what I'm gonna live out. And what I realized was it can change day to day, and you can have a million different purposes, and every day it gets to look differently. And you were just touching on how purpose, the word, can feel really scary, and it absolutely can. And when we strip it back, it could be as simple as, like, today, like waking up and being like, today my purpose is just to clean the house. If that's where you're at in life, amazing. Because what happens is people look at this big picture, this, like, I want the crazy cars and the house, and I want to make $1 million, and I want to create impact, and I want to build a thriving business, and all of these things. And they forget to look at the little wins along the way. Right. And then you just spoke into it, it's always evolving, and you couldn't be more, like, true. Like, your purpose is going to constantly evolve. And when you do everything that Tony said by becoming who you need to become and focus on you and put self first, not in a selfish way, but in the sense of, like, you can't be a good partner without being the best version of yourself. You can't make incredible amounts of money without being the best version of yourself. You can't build a business without being the most best version of yourself. Like, you can't do the things you really want to do unless you put yourself first. So sometimes it's like, forget about the purpose, forget about the big picture, and just like, how can you be 1% better today? How can you just continuously look after yourself and thrive for yourself so that naturally everything else thrives as well? So purpose can be so grand, and I think for a lot of people, I'm going to use the should word. It should be grand. I think we should be endeavoring to have an incredible life. I think if you're settling for anything else, then what's the point? And at the same time, I really believe that purpose can be found in such that that's the small things of, like, going for a walk and having a morning coffee, and it doesn't have to be this grand thing either.
And it just swings back into mindfulness and gratitude as well, and we spoke on a podcast today, and it was about that too. We touched on that, didn't we? About the fact that just enjoy those moments every single day. We have these grand plans and we have these big goals, and that's also amazing. But then also come back down to what's great. What are you grateful for now? What are you grateful for today? And what can you do today that makes you feel thriving, that lights you up? And some people don't want to make $1 million, and they don't want this amazing, crazy organization and business, but they want to have more family time, and they want to have more financial security, and they want to maybe have a hobby and be able to do that more often or whatever it is. And, like, that's your purpose. Let that be your purpose right now. And that will snowball into something also amazing, and it will keep pivoting and changing.
Mm.
It's like, what do you want to do now and today? What can you start implementing now instead of keep projecting to the future? I feel like that's where this conversation is. It's like present moment. What can you do right now?
Mm.
And I love that.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I love most about you two is you're just a absolute power duo.
Yeah.
Tony, you work with the men, and then Maggie, I want to touch on because you work with the women as well, and you help them step into the power, the claim like they want. You talk into that, and perhaps for the ladies listening, how could they essentially claim the life they want?
Mm. That's such a big question, and I think that's how Tony started the answer to his question too. Like, it is a really big question because everyone's different. Not because it's hard, or not because, it's so out of reach, but rather because there's so many people out there telling us what we should or shouldn't want for our life. Even I did it just before. I said, I believe you should live a big grand life. Like, everyone's going to be shooting all over you and telling you what life should look like. I won't say it anymore, don't I? um, the reality is that it can be whatever you want it to be. And a lot of women I'm noticing at the moment, they think they need to have a certain career success, or be at a certain point in their life before they can start the next thing. And what this really is about is stripping back all the layers. And if I've learned anything over the last 4 or 5 years, is that I will most likely not be anywhere near where I thought I would be in 5 years' time. I'll either be way further or in a completely different direction. However, I'll be nowhere else other than where I am today if I don't start. And a lot of people don't start, and that's the problem. They think their goals are too out of reach, they're too far away, and that turns them off completely. So everything that I do inside the Herb Academy is based around stripping away everything you thought you should be, or everything you thought you were, the life you thought was yours, the life you thought it should be, and actually start building everything that you want. And that's a very high trumped answer because it's not specific. Like, I'm not going to live the same life Tony lives, even though we are creating a life together, and vice versa for you guys and me and Lauren. Like, we're all going to have a different reality, even if it looks similar. And the foundations of what I teach inside there is to support people in creating that individual life. But it can be as grand as they want. It can be as not so grand if they really don't want that. But it's allowing them to come back to what they really want, so that when they walk around and someone tells them they, should get a safe job, or they should quit the job that they're doing because it's no good for them, or they're not making enough money, or whatever it is, they can tell them to go where they want and move on with their life and actually do what they want. Like, the reality, I just want more women, more people in general, but like, I'm not here to serve men, I don't feel. I'm here to serve women. And I want more women to start stepping into that and being like, I don't want the life that you're putting on me. I want this life. Or even better, I know that there's a lot of like corporate women probably listening. Even better, like, going, like, if someone's told them they can't have something in corporate, being like, I don't care what you're saying right now, I want this, and actually go after it. And no matter how many setbacks they have, they keep going because they know that if they don't give up, it's the only way they're going to get there.
I could talk to these guys for ages. Hey, yo. So many truth bombs, so much value, and you're so easy to talk to. I was actually going to ask both of you, and whoever starts, I don't mind. What are your non-negotiables that you turn to every single day, whether it's a bloody hard day and you're feeling like crap, or whether you're, feeling amazing? What are the things that you make sure that you do for your own and mental health and your well-being?
My non-negotiable is like, I'll be honest, my habits aren't necessarily great every day. I'm human. However, the one thing that I do every single day is I don't touch my phone first thing in the morning, because everyone wants my attention. Everyone wants my attention. And if I'm not the person that I give my attention to first thing in the morning, then what's the point? Like, I'm available all day. I'm not giving my first 15 minutes to everyone else. So for me, it actually allows me to stay really grounded throughout the day, because the first thing I'm doing is for myself, even if it's like going to the toilet, having a shower, having a shake, getting changed, something so minor. I may not go out for a walk straight away. I might, but I'm doing something for me first. So non-negotiable is like, I give so much throughout the day that the first 15 minutes at least of my day is for me. I like to make it more if I can. Sometimes it's not so easy to do. Like, I do have things I need to attend to. I do have business, work, etc. But that if I can get at least 15 minutes a day, like, that sets the tone for my day.
And 15 minutes is literally 1% of your day. So I'm sure everyone listening can find 1% of their day, if it's the first thing in the morning, like you, Mag, fantastic, where it's just for them. I love that. What about funny tone? What do you do?
Yeah. One of the quotes we have on our Better Together movement is connect. It's the cure. And so one of the things that we, like Maggie and I do, we just hug. It's a form of connection. And so if I don't like wake up and give Maggie a hug, then it's not getting the day off started correctly, right? That's just one element. But connecting could be more than one thing, could be more than a hug, could just be a conversation. And I'm very charged when, I can have, conversations like even with you guys first thing in the morning. It lifts my day up. And then obviously the second thing is just honoring my body in the sense of like what I put into it. Have first thing in the morning, have a shake, have a meal, like really just get into that routine and like start going, because I mean, if yeah, it's just really honoring the body nutrition wise is just something I've always believed in, and just connecting.
It can be that simple.
Yeah.
Going back to that.
Yeah. It's funny because, for long-term listeners, you would have heard that's an ongoing theme at the moment. Just coming back to the simple things, coming back to the basics, or if connecting, it's finding time for yourself. Just those basics is a way of moving forward.
And it isn't just those basics either, right? Like we say it as if it's easy. It's simple, but it's not always easy.
Correct.
Because we've got so much programming, we have so much going on. We go from one thing to the next, and sometimes we forget. And it's good to have that reminder. And I think it's great having podcasts like this and have people in your life that give you that reminder too. Oh, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been doing something for yourself lately, or you don't seem like yourself lately. Being able to have people around you that are really honest and can lead you in a positive direction. And that's what I love about what you two are doing with, the Better Together movement. It's creating that positive energy. People are uplifting one another and encouraging each other to be the best versions, whatever that is. Everyone's juggling so much. People are got their own challenges, but how can they just do a little bit more every day? How can they show up a bit better every day? Whatever that looks like for them. So I love what you two are about. And on that, I'd love for both of you to speak on this big vision, because I know you two have a huge vision that has been birthed fairly recently. And we've witnessed this, and it's just gives me goosebumps thinking about this vision that you have. So I'd love you both to speak on one.
Yeah, look, our biggest vision, it's funny, we speak of purpose, and we always have this in mind because it's it's something that was birthed, 3, 4 years ago, let's be honest. It's like becoming that overnight sensation. It's like this thing has not just been birthed, 2, 3 months ago. It's been birthed since we started growing, and it's to impact the lives of over 20,000 people globally, and in the process grow the happiest and the healthiest community on the planet. And whilst to some it sounds like such a big audacious goal, it is. And maybe 2, 3 years ago, with that mission wouldn't have been ready for us. We wouldn't have been ready for it. But along the process, we've grown and grown and grown to the point where we're ready now to just take that on our stride and live it and live it and breathe it, and not necessarily like always be fixated on that outcome, but just do the little things every single day that are going to help us get there. And so, it's been really beautiful to see. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it. The rapid rate in which the community has grown because of the simple message of, being connection is the cure. In like, what was it, like 6 short weeks, we had over like 700 people, join our community, and just want to be a part of the fun, want to be a part of the connection. Something that had been lacking for such a long time. People were just ready to step back into, personal development. People were just ready to step back into in-person community events, and that's really what was special for us. It's like curate something like that and be able to watch it you know, unfold and just grow the way it has is just something that's been really, really special for us to witness.
Yeah, absolutely. We have so much in our vision. Like every day we're talking about how, oh, this would be such a good
Yeah.
like business idea, or oh, we should do this, or like we've always got ideas going. And I think what I'm beginning to notice is that at the heart of all of those is bringing people together to help grow. Whether it's a new business opportunity or coming together as a community, or like who we can partner with, or all these things, it truly is about coming together. And as much as Better Together is a community, and it's going to can always be that, where people can come and go whenever they please. They can come for life, they can come to one event, they can just join the page and never show up to an event. Like everyone's welcome. It's also about like how can we come together with other businesses and support other people, because we're two people who can impact X amount of lives. But when more people come together, the impact ripples, and it multiplies and amplifies. And we have plans of, I don't even know where to begin, but I'd love to tell you about the ball pit, but we'll leave that for another time.
No.
I like it as an open loop, and it's an open with a perfect opportunity now. If people want to know more about you personally, either Tony or Maggie, or more about the Better Together movement, and perhaps even see a ball pit in the future, where can they go to find you guys?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just Maggie Tilley. And Better Together is the Better Together movement on Instagram and TikTok.
Mhm.
And you, Tony?
Yeah, and me, just find me at Tony Punzo, kicking goals.
All of that into the show notes below. And you do want to watch these guys, because these two are going to go far. All pits and alls. And I'm going to keep that loop going until we see whatever the ball pit is.
We have one last question for you both, which is the most important question. I'm going to start with you, Tony. If you had 30 to 60 seconds of advice to give the listeners, it can be anything that we've spoken about or something completely different, what would that advice be?
Yeah, great question. Stop drowning yourself in addictions, terrible habits, terrible people that don't want to see you win. Start devoting yourself and your life to something more meaningful and more powerful than who you are. Because when you can put the lives of others before you, right, and really devote and like really work towards that, your life is just going to be astronomically better, right? You can start now, but then that habit stacks over a period of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years. You really change your life. So devoting yourself something grander and bigger than yourself, and stop worrying about the small things. You're going to be okay.
And you, Max?
For me, whatever you do, because I used to be so hard on myself on what I had to do with my life, what job I had to do, where I had to live, all the things. Whatever you choose in life, have some fun with it, do it with love, and just give it 100%. Like, no matter what you do, you can't choose the wrong thing, whether it's your purpose we're talking about, whether it's your career, whether it's a relationship, whatever you're in, give it 100%, and it'll either work out or it won't. But you don't have to worry about that now. It is not what you have to worry about. You just have to worry about enjoying life, doing it, having fun, living it with love, and laughing along the way. That's one thing this guy's taught me, is have a lot more fun with everything I do. So make sure you have some fun with your life. It's not so serious.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode.
If you got value from this episode, it would mean the world to us if you could take 20 seconds out of your day and leave a 5-star rating and written review.
And remember, you have the power to make a lasting change in your workplace.